Welcome, my friends, to the podcast that never ends, where we gather our clan and talk about peace and love in our lives, the difficulties along the journey, and how we rise up. We will experience a little thing I call Kluberty together, find our sweet spot, and planting our seeds to watch them grow in our magic garden. I'm Uncle Dave, and our transformation starts right here. Hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Today, I know we're going to have so much fun with our guest, who I just recently met, Pat Honiotes. Knew I was going to mess that up. I'm so sorry, Pat. But
No.
I know we're going to have so much more fun with we've had a couple of conversations, and each conversation we've had so far really has been up-leveling for me. So thank you so much. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. Like you are, could be better, but man, I'm not going to argue with what I've got today.
Yeah, that's a blessing, man. We are blessed, and I really appreciate that. The honesty, like you were just saying to me in our little green room, that I appreciate your honesty, and I think we should say those things. And one of the things I posted today on social media is saying, "Hey, I haven't been feeling that great for the past couple of weeks. I've been having these intense dreams and things like that, but I also am really good at two of the three things that I want everybody to do. Say, I love you. Say, I'm sorry when you're really sorry. And sorry means changing a behavior. It doesn't mean saying, I'm sorry I spilled the milk and then, hey, I knocked over the milk again. It's a changed behavior, because that's really, you're also saying you're sorry. Ho'oponopono. Really saying the words we need to hear for ourselves,
Yes.
that will then change the world around us. And then also to ask for help, or at least be honest with people about really speaking up and speaking our true self. I want everybody to get to know you. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself first?
I'm a Midwestern girl, born and raised in Nebraska. I haven't lived there since I was 18, but it's my roots. I've taught school from preschool to college. My biggest love is seeing the light come on in somebody's eyes when they get something, whether they're children, my slow learners, my PhD students, whatever it is. Right now, I live in Noonan, Georgia, soon to transfer to Nashville. And my biggest thing right now is being the nucleus of your own life, being centered on you, because I always say you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't have compassion for yourself, whatever you're giving out is a facsimile. And it just all boils down to dignity and respect for everyone, but you have to come first.
Yeah, that was something I definitely didn't understand for a lot of years. I share it often about when I attempted suicide. And then one of the first questions I was asked afterwards was, do you love yourself? And it shook me to my bones. I didn't know the answer, which meant no. And at the end of the day, now I can honestly say I still love myself. While I'm feeling whatever I need to feel, I also don't question the fact that I love myself and what I do. And I love that you said the nucleus, because I know, looking back at your stuff, it really does begin within each of us.
Yes.
And that's the thing also. And I know you don't play small. I love to hear all those things. So could you tell us some of your nucleus? What made you, man, which I think is awesome.
I had a sister that was, this isn't politically correct now, and I'm not known to be politically correct, so that's all right, that was born severely mentally retarded. Okay. And to the point that she couldn't even speak in her adulthood. That started the whole thing for me, because what I saw was her being diminished, dismissed, put down because she was different. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Everybody has that right to dignity and respect. What was funny, Dave, was while I stood up for her and went to bat for her, I didn't do it so much for myself. It took me a long time to really accept who I am. I've always been a screwball. I've always had a loud mouth. I always had to felt like I had to hold back and not let that out. And I got into a lot of trouble with my mouth. But what I finally realized was that's what I'm here for. That's my design, is to call attention to things that just need to be changed in the world, no matter what it is. So I'm known for speaking up. It doesn't always make me popular, but you know what? That's okay. It's what the hair stands up on the back of my neck. whenever I see someone, especially someone that isn't there to defend themselves or can't defend themselves, just be ripped apart. And I can't handle that. I step in immediately. But you know what? I had to learn to do that for myself first.
Yeah, no, that's the biggest power. I've been always a protector, to a
Yeah.
flaw. Being a protector, and a lot of times you'll protect somebody else, even if it's at your own, you
Yes.
know, damage. And that's what I do. To this day, I still have that part of me because you mess with my family, even though you mess with my people. That's what it really comes down to is
Yes.
messing with my people really becomes something completely different. And that's what it is. And because I went on your website and I saw your story about your sister. And
Ah,
yeah, I really respect that. Growing up, I had an aunt, a great aunt, who had cerebral palsy and other issues within my family. And the people who don't, I had friends. I had a friend who was extremely obese and not clinically obese, where they go now, if you're 10 pounds over, you're obese and things like that, who really couldn't move and how he was made fun of and being part of that. My mom, there's so many things, and you sometimes become that protector because you care for those people so much on such a high level that it becomes overpowering at times, and
yes.
you don't see it. It's because it becomes who you are. And
Yes. Yeah. You're right. It does become who you are. Huh. I've never looked at it that way before, but I think you are right on target. I have a number of people that go, "Oh, don't get mama bear on you because she will take you." And that's true. So yeah, sometimes other people see it before we do.
yeah, once you go back inside, that's where I've seen some of this within myself. That why did I react here? When I look at my past, what can I do for growth and improvement? But also, what am I doing or what am I teaching in the future? And there's times I'm protective, and there's sometimes I need that protection because most of our things that we sometimes get are the things that happened to us in our childhood. And I know you shared on your website some of the things that happened in your childhood to overcome and still became true to who you are. And I think that's the message that I read. Not only that, oh, it came to me later in life. You stayed to yourself through the challenges and the protection of even your mom didn't want you to be embarrassed and things like
Yeah.
that. But that extra overprotection becomes a limiting belief also, because I've had that as well.
Yeah. Here's the thing though, is not sure how to express this, but it's almost like you don't have a choice. And of course you do, but it is just so innate for me. It's like an automatic. And yeah, I don't want to change that. But and like I said, I know we have a choice, but it's so automatic for me. It's just boom, and we're there.
It's how we grew up. We don't see anything. We only know as far as we're being trained, and through the growth of our lives, that's what we see, and it's through our own filters also. So it's through the various filters, and that's why being stuck and keep continuing to grow through that being stuck. I know you have your phrase "stuck to stardom." That's where it is. It starts with that nucleus, and it just continues to expand. As I always say, you could be the change in everybody else's life. Is if you start changing your behaviors, everybody becomes aware if they want to be.
Yes, yes. I would say we model when we speak up for ourselves, when we speak out. In some ways, we're giving others permission to do the same thing. We're modeling behavior that can change things. It just I work a lot with small business and entrepreneurs, and one of the biggest things to get them to understand is what you were just talking about, how all our experiences, whether it's childhood, even younger, straight on through, it shows up in their business every day, whether they realize it or not. And it impacts the people that they work with. And if
Sure.
you can be brave enough to go in and look at that, you can begin to use it on purpose to help everybody around you. But you have to be willing to do the deep dive. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
Doing that deep dive, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, is about how do you figure yourself out? So that, which is really scary.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I talk about is I say the monsters under your bed are not worse than the monsters in our head. And
Yes.
it really is the things we think about. And even just the way we act. What are some of the ways that you instruct clients and people, that you would instruct the audience to be looking in how to dive into yourself, figure yourself out?
There's some things you can do this to start figuring yourself out, but I will tell you, on a very deep level, to go that deep, you really need it. You really need a partner. You need someone to go with you, a coach, a therapist, because the biggest fear I run into with folks is, oh crap, I'm going to go there and I'm not going to be able to come back. That's a real, genuine fear. What if I go look at all this stuff and I get stuck there? And so keep in mind that if you're going to do that deep, then you have someone that you can rely on. The other thing that I say is awareness always gives you choice. So have the intention of staying aware. So if when I quit smoking, the first thing I did was say, okay, I'm gonna stay aware around whatever's happening when I want a cigarette. And when you can be, but it's awareness. And when you get that, then you go, oh man, my smoking a cigarette isn't going to make that lady any less mean to me, or whatever it is. So for me, you start with awareness.
100%. Yeah, you have to be aware and self-aware, and it's
Yes.
really hard to do because all of our intentions are generally very good. We don't necessarily go out of our way, be mean. Even the meanest person generally is doing it because either they're unhappy with themselves
They've been
or
hurt.
they're seeing it's more about me versus about a bigger picture. Like when somebody cuts you off, I remember being in a situation, somebody cuts you off and you curse you, this, and people get angry and they get aggressive, which is more popular now than it's ever been in our lives. But then I also go, that person is not really doing it to me. Yes, they're cutting me off, driving. I'm just an obstacle in their way. I'm just, a dust. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that goes along with one of the things I teach is someone will get really upskittled about something someone has done to them or whatever. I said, wait a minute, let's take a time out. Just set that aside just for a moment. And for just a few moments, I want you to just imagine what could have happened to you in your life to have you behave that way. And many times I would never behave that way. I said, oh, wait a minute. I want you to imagine just the worst thing that could have happened to you that would have made you behave that way if it had happened. And it's about using your imagination to a really good purpose. And every single time, if you push it, they'll go, oh, yeah, if my dad had beaten me every day of my life, I would act that way. So, okay. And you don't know what's happened there. Not that you have to give them permission to do that. But when you have that little modicum of understanding, it comes off of you, the responsibility. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and you have to be careful because how they're interpreting it is not your responsibility, but it is. So there's a fine line because if you say it the right way, it's the old. I go back to forget about it. There's a lot of different meetings about
Yeah.
it, or even just how you say good morning. I can say, "Oh, good morning, Pat. How are you doing?" And I could also say, "Yeah, good morning, Pat. How are you doing?"
Yeah.
Obviously, there's different energies behind it and different understanding. I still said the same things, but
We're responsible for how we say it and how
sure.
we be in it. We're not responsible for how they hear it. I could hear good morning, Pat, as oh man, is he a jerk today? What's he all bouncy? I don't think we're responsible for all of it. I think we're responsible for what we put out. I
Mhm.
don't think we're responsible for what they hear.
Yep, no, correct. Yeah. I am really glad that you're enjoying the show, and I hope you follow us on all the podcast hosting sites, as well as Facebook, Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, or you can follow me, Uncle Dave, David Chemetsky, at Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse, and www.davidchemetsky.com. I also would enjoy for you to contact me if you want to just have some feedback. You need somebody to talk to at peacelovebringabat@gmail.com. Love to hear your feedback. Thanks. Because some of the words, and that's where I go. Some of the words, out what we say is obviously a good morning is an easy say word, but the wording that we use. Because I also know you're an expert in many things, including gaslighting. So could you explain to us? Because everybody, and this is where I think I was going, is that everybody goes, oh, that person gaslights me or this and that. It's a little bit more deeper because we use those words, depression, and a lot of words that really just mean something different. When we say depressed, no, you could be sad, but depression goes a lot deeper when you understand those levels. So could you
Yeah.
explain to us at least gaslighting, which is
That's a difficult one, and it is.
okay?
And here's the reason why.
Mhm.
Is the perception of it. I'm just going to be flat out and say, when is okay, are you playing victim here? Are you stepping into a victim role? Because
Mhm.
that's always the first question is, okay, am I just, and there are people that will play victim at
Yep.
every turn, right? To get that, however, does not exclude the possibility that there's planned gaslighting. There's planned, I think it happens less often than we'd like to believe it does. Yeah. It's not gaslighting, is really an intentional, I'm going to make them and everybody else think they're crazy so I can inherit something or whether. That's one thing.
I could be I can look better because they're crazy.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. I don't
Yeah.
even like to use crazy because personally, right after my suicide attempt, somebody called me crazy and a lot of other names. And while then I was in a clinical depression, I that's why I don't use the word depressed. You could feel sad, and I don't mind saying that. But using those words automatically, because then they're looking for a reaction. They're
Yes.
looking
Yes.
for, see, that's what he does. And that's gaslighting. That's the part that I think needs to be communicated and
Yeah.
spoken about. The
Yeah.
words we use, going back to anything else, crazy is not crazy, right? You could be crazy in excitement, and there's a lot
Yes.
of good things, but there's usually a negative part to that. It's uncontrollable, but that's what I like talking about. And that was what I was told during my suicide attempt. I need to talk about mental wellness better. And I wasn't doing it. I was performing it, but I wasn't speaking about it. And that's why I love these type of conversations.
The other thing is, I'll tell you, a good showstopper is when I'll say, Pat, you're really weird. And I go, and what do you mean by that?
Right.
What's your definite? Most always throw the question back. Sometimes it's just fun. I have a group called the Odd Ducks. And so we have a lot of fun with it, but we also know the negative side with that.
Mhm.
But what does that really mean? What does it mean that I'm depressed? What is that in terms of energy or in terms of actions or in terms of, or whatever? I always ask their definition. And I don't think, Dave, I have found the same definition of any word ever. People
Right.
agree on it when it comes to the experience of it.
And that's the experience. Sometimes we want to hear exactly what we want to hear.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I was once in a situation where in a relationship and the person was like, "Did you ever try to hurt me?" And I go, "Do you think I tried to hurt you?" And they
Yes.
go, and they were like, "Yeah." I go, "Then I guess I did. Because if you think I hurt you and you didn't know me well enough to say that knew that I would never hurt you, to this day I still wouldn't hurt that person."
Yeah.
I'm like, then you didn't know who I really was, and you already came in with a preconceived idea of who I was, what I do, and that's really one of the things that is not on me. Now, whatever you wanted to hear, you got to hear,
Yeah.
and that's where better communication. And I think that's where a lot of as human beings having those communications. And Odd Duck, I love that name because we all, I don't know why, it's a weird world. We all want to
Yes.
be different, but if we're called different, again, when you said about being weird, we all want to be weird. We all want to be a little different, unique, but we also are afraid when we're called. If I just walked over to you and said, "Hey, Pat, you're weird," then you could be like, "Oh, why would Dave try to do that?" And I'd be like, how I would mean it would be like, "Hey, you're one of my people because I
Yeah.
get what you talk about." And
See,
that's really huge.
that's some of the things that I run into is, yeah, we all want to be unique. We all want to stand out. But there are a group of people that I work with that they've been punished for being different to the point of now they're scared to open their mouths. It can get to that point. It's not just,
For
oh, I
sure.
want to be different and unique, but as children, even growing up, they've been punished for being the way they are. I had one client that she was threatened with being committed to a mental institution because she was a channel, even as a kid. That can get you to,
Yeah,
so when it reaches that level, dang.
when people don't understand, they want to
Yes.
kind of demoralize you. And I don't understand what you're going through. instead of trying to understand, and that becomes too tough to do, then you go, okay, so then it's you. Again, it's that, to me, that's the gaslighting, right? It's okay, I don't understand what you're going through. I don't understand how you feel. Instead of saying, let's talk about it, or how can I support you in the way that you need to be supported,
And they don't necessarily want to understand
it's scary.
because
Yeah,
yeah, that threatens then the thoughts that they have about themselves.
correct.
Yeah, it's wow. Yeah.
Deep. But that's where I like to go. I do
Yes.
think you always need to have a good sounding board, either therapist, coach. There's a whole bunch of people, a good friend. It doesn't have to be that. It could be a religious leader, whoever.
Yeah.
Tell you who's going to be really truthful and honest. And you have to be willing to hear it. And
Yes.
that's why some of the work that I've done, even on myself, I say the hard things to myself, not because I'm trying to beat myself up. I'm trying to go, let's be honest with each other and be like, did I meet the commitments that I made? Did I uphold who I really want to be? The person who my dog thinks I am.
Yes.
And that's really not as easy as we would hope, but it's really much more enjoyable to be in that type of
Yeah.
setting than anything else.
The most wonderful comments I get or compliments that I get have been from clients, and I've had this happen several times, was Pat, we always know where we stand with you. And I go, good, because that means that we can all move together in the same direction. And yes, I've been told that I'm blunt and what's the word? I'm not politically correct. And I go, huh? And
Right.
but it takes a while to build up to that, Dave. At least it did for me.
Me too. That's why everybody, even on my the logo, it says Uncle Dave, and people go, "Oh, Uncle Dave," or even with the baseball bat, well, peace, love, and bring a bat, and people talked me out of it, that name, and using Uncle Dave because they go, "Oh, not everybody had a great experience with uncles," and I'm like, ask my nieces or nephews
Yeah.
what they think of Uncle Dave. A little weird. I own it. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. But it's that safe person, right? Why are we looking at only the negative pieces to it instead of embracing this thing? Same thing with the bat. People were like, "Oh, women aren't going to love it, or bad and violence." And I go, "Yes, again, it's true." But if you hear what I'm doing, again, I'm a cartoon figure in my logo. I'm anybody who gets to know me. Hey, I do I yell? 100%. That's where I grew up. That's part of the traumas I've experienced. But the bat has nothing to do with it. It has to do about hitting your sweet spot. It has all the positive things, being authentic today.
Yes.
And that's where I'm like, no, they need to hear my message. If you want to judge me just on what, that's okay. I can't make
That
you do
can't do
anything
anything
else.
about that.
But if
Yeah.
you get to know me, you get to
Yeah.
know the real reason, the real stuff behind it. That's where the power of life goes.
You're reminding me of, like I said, we're models. I think we teach
Sure.
through our behaviors. The greatest compliment I got from I live with my daughter and my granddaughter, right? The greatest compliment I got was when her friends went home one day and she came into my room and she says, Grandma, it's okay. I warn my friends before they come over that I have a crazy grandma and they love it. But what that did then was just take the, how do I want it takes the sting out of crazy. I mean, to them that meant fun, calling silly names, that kind of stuff. But teaching them at that young age, it's okay to be off the wall, to be different. Just
Mhm.
like you're teaching people that uncles aren't always those kinds of uncles. They're this kind of uncle.
Yeah, my story is I'll share with you, and I've shared with my audience before. It really happened. I was walking into an office as being a certified peer recovery advocate. We were here with other mothers in a senator's office in New York State, and they were talking about all the pain that the parents have gone through, either with children with addiction or have lost children to the disease.
Oh God, yeah.
And I see, unfortunately, the senators, if you don't experience it, you don't get it. And you can hear the stories and it becomes inspiring. It becomes a whole lot more. But so I all of a sudden I shuck up the room and I go, no, stop with the stories. This is what we're here for. We're not here to tell you stories. And everybody's looking at me. And I explain exactly the 3 points that we were supposed to express. I walk out of there and everybody gave me a hug. They were like, this one, I shifted the energy in that room. And then that's where I got the nickname Uncle Dave. I've been an uncle before, but at that point, then everybody got to see me in that community and they're like, Uncle Dave. And they knew what to expect. A protector, but they also knew somebody who's going to provide the safe space and sometimes say the things that you need to say. As we've all worked with clients who have come in and done stuff that they shouldn't have done. When I was working in the addiction space, I had a guy who walked in and was like, I used today. I know you're going to be angry at me. I go, I'm not anything. I go, in fact, you're a success today. It was 10 o'clock at night. He wanted to get beat up a little bit. And I
Yeah,
go, no, you're a success. And he asked me, why am I a success? How? I just told you I used today. I did all these things. And I go, you showed up here. I
that's right.
go, I go, you showed up for yourself. I go, just the fact that I'm here doesn't mean anything. And that's what we have to do is show up for ourselves when we're figuring out even the small wins, even when we're not feeling the way that feels best for us, is still figure out the way to move forward. And that's why being honest, and it's funny when I put out a lot of positive messages, but then when I put out something that sounds a little less, people want to grab onto that. And I
Yeah.
always laugh because I'm like, why don't you reach out to me when I say something positive? You don't want to hear that. You want to hear that I'm not feeling good. Yeah, I don't mind sharing it because that's who I am. It can't all be one every day of sunshine, rainbows, and green lights.
And unicorns. Remember the unicorns, Dave.
I won't forget the unicorns and lollipops. So, what do you do when you feel less good?
I go outside. This is I go out. I'm sitting here judging myself, saying, this is going to sound corny, but I'm admitting that. So what I'm going to do is walk into that and say, even though it sounds corny, maybe I go outside. I love being outside. I have a little good dog about this big, and just sitting and holding him and talking to him. He's very non-judgmental. I
Right.
have a couple of friends that I just call up and say, okay, you don't have to say a word, just let me rant, let me get it off my chest, and then we can be nice to each other, or then we can talk about something else. That's probably the biggest thing, is that when we hold it in. Okay.
Sure.
And I wrote an article and did in fact, I'll send it to you if you want it. It's called The Power of the Rant. And it just talks a little bit about what that does for you, because you're letting all that negative energy out.
Mhm.
And that leaves room for more positive energy to come in. And it does a step-by-step thing on how you can rant without hurting yourself or anyone else. It's one of the most powerful tools I've ever come across. And I got off target there. But those are the things
Yeah, I don't think so. I think both of those things. So I think going outside is a great resource because I talk about often how earth and heart are the
yeah.
same letters rearranged differently. You got to ground yourself. So going
You go
outside,
outside barefooted, Dave.
yep, barefoot. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. That's how I got through a lot of the pandemic. I just walked every now and then. It got overwhelming. I walked outside in my backyard in the grass, and that's all you do. I still do it, and it's one of those things that once you learn how to ground yourself, and then the challenge that when I first asked you, and you felt that unease,
Yeah.
I'd say tell everybody. I tell everybody exactly what I do. That doesn't mean that it works for everybody, but I think those were great things. Find a pet, no matter what. I could yell at my dog because she did something wrong. She digs into my backyard, and then as soon as we come back in, give her a treat. We go
Yep.
sit down, and what does she do? She goes lays on me, and I'm her person. And that's what it is. Find your person, your thing, and don't only have it as a dog or as a cat, as a my chinchilla loves me, which he does. It's all those little pieces of how it moves forward
Yes.
and moving that energy. And I think that's where, when you were saying about we feel stuck and the word damned, right? So it's a curse word. It's really not. When the beavers dam a river, and that's really where the word damned really comes from, while we use it in other ways,
Yeah.
it's you're blocked. And the river
Yes.
then starts flowing again. Your energy river starts flowing again once you unlock all the branches and twigs and things
Yeah.
up. Anyway,
Any amount of little movement is going to cause momentum.
sure,
It doesn't matter how small it is. It's gonna begin to open things up.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think that's what we have to do is when we move the energy, when it feels stuck, when it feels heavy for us, how do we move it? And there's lots of different ways to move it. Every which way works for you. And that's the goals on how to find the ways that work best for you.
Even when you don't want to do it, I know what to do, Dave. I can give you 10 different things to do. And there's sometimes I get in that place, I know every one of them, and I don't want to freaking do it. I
Yep.
just want to stay here and be left alone. And that's when it's most challenging for people, I think.
Yeah. But then there's also the point of it's okay to do that a
Sure,
day or some time, but
sure.
not every day. You could give yourself a break, and you can even give yourself a break to feel bad and to sit in your sadness or whatever you need to sit into. But also try to find one thing, the Kaizen thinking, that 1%. If you could change 1% of the day, I don't care if the rest of the day is horrible in your estimation. I mean, I have a friend who regularly at 9 o'clock in the morning, I go, "Good morning, how you doing?" "Oh, today's a bad day." I go, "9 o'clock in the morning is a bad day?" I go, "Come on, you could change that stuff around easy. By 9:30, you could change it around if you choose. It is some of our choices. And what do? Is just powerful once we get to do it. But also taking those times to just be within ourselves and feeling the feels and feeling the sadness is okay as well.
We've been taught not to feel as part of the problem.
Right.
And we've been taught that from early on, and then to feel it, but then to express it. Don't let them see you cry. Don't let them. That's part of what we're overcoming too, is that early learning of not to feel.
Yeah. No. So I know we've spoken about so much, and we're going to start wrapping up a little bit. And you've given us lots of gems throughout the conversation. What's the one thing that you'd like us to take away? Another piece of learning. And then after that, I'll also give you an opportunity to tell us where we can contact you.
Center on yourself. And I don't mean that from a selfish or self-centered way, but center on yourself. The old time in the old movies about the wagons going across the prairie, and they
Yeah.
have the big wagon wheels on them.
Hmm.
Imagine yourself as that hub in the big wheel, and everything that goes, and when that's in balance, things just go more smoothly when you center on yourself. When you're not centered on that hub, or it gets out of alignment at a level, things start messing up. So visualize you being the center of yourself graciously, because from there you can genuinely give.
That's awesome. I think that's the greatest way. That's the greatest message that could be we could leave with is focus on yourself, and then
Yeah,
it all works out from there. Now, how can everybody contact you if they want to contact you?
it's really pretty easy. I give out my direct email. If you want to contact me with a question or anything, it's Pat Honiotes. I'm going to spell Honiotes. So it's PATHONIOTES at gmail.com. And I do respond.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that I know you're having a conference in the summer with your ducks, and
Yes,
looking forward to helping out and supporting you that way as well.
great. I hope you can be there. We'll be in touch around that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, and everybody else, as always, just want to bring peace and love into your life and do it for yourself. But when you swing a bat, hit your sweet spot, knock it out of the park, and really just have a great day. God bless. Well, my friends, today's journey has come to a close. I hope the seeds of peace and love continue to grow for each one of you. Remember, the peace and love surround you that will assist you to rise again. And don't forget to bring a bat for what you believe in. Namaste.